We are in 1960. Boeing has the monopoly of the aviation market. Europe is divided between communism and capitalism. In that context, the most advanced aviation brand of all time is born. We are talking about AIRBUS. Today, we will talk about the story of how it almost failed before beginning, and how the engineers resolved the big dilemma of this brand, which distinguished itself through advanced technology in the military, commercial, and space industry. So let's begin our journey through the history of AIRBUS. We are in 1967. The Prime Ministers of Germany, England and France promised to collaborate to make a program in the field of aviation technology, and thereby promoting economic and technological progress in Europe, to take appropriate measures for the joint development and production of an Airbus. But why this program? Let's go back then to October 14, 1947. Chuck Yeager, an American, was the first man to fly over the sound barrier with his Bell X-1. Since then, the world started to develop new supersonic technologies. Later, in the 50s, United States, England, France, and USSR started to do studies about the commercial supersonic flight. Let's go over then to 1962. The United Kingdom and France jointly developed, with the concurrence of the USSR and USA, the most beautiful and fastest commercial aircraft that the world has ever seen, the Concorde. Maximum speed of Mach 2.2, cruise height of 60,000 feet, maximum range of almost 6,000 nautical miles. Let's return now to 1967. Who were the protagonists of this endeavor? Born on August 28, 1921, in Vors, Aveyron, France, Betaille had an exceptional educational background. After graduating from the prestigious École Polytechnique, he joined the Corps de l'Armement and pursued advanced studies at Super Aero and the Centre des Hautes Études de l'Armement. In 1952, Betaille joined Saud Aviation in Toulouse, holding key leadership positions including Head of Flight Testing 1952-1957 and Head of the Rockets and Satellites Division 1957-1967, while also playing a decisive role in aircraft programs such as the Armagnac and Caravelle. Betaille's contributions were instrumental to Airbus' global success. Listening closely to major airlines such as Air France, Lufthansa, United Airlines, TWA, and American Airlines, he made critical strategic decisions such as adopting English as the working language and using imperial measurements to ensure compatibility with existing American-built fleets. November 18, 1906, in Limoges, France, Ziegler possessed an outstanding academic and military background. He graduated from both the prestigious École Polytechnique and Super Aero, subsequently serving as a French Air Force officer and test pilot. In 1938, he was appointed Assistant Director of the Centre d'Essai en Vol, Government Flight Test Center. During World War II, Ziegler played a vital role in the French resistance. By 1944, he was appointed Commander of the Free French Air Forces in London and became Chief of Staff of the Forces Françaises de l'Intérieur (FFI) under General Pierre Koenig. For his wartime leadership and bravery, he was awarded the Croix de Guerre 1939-1945 with 3 palms, the Médaille de la Résistance with rosette, and made an officer of the US Legion of Merit. In the post-war era, Ziegler built an extensive executive career across civil aviation and state industry. He served as managing director of Air France from 1946 to 1954, founded the AIRBUS, and later became president of Aviation Breguet and Sud Aviation in 1968. He also played a key leadership role in the Franco-British Concorde project and went on to become president and CEO of SNIAS, later renamed Aerospatiale, from 1970 to 1973. As the founding CEO of Airbus industry, he provided the crucial political momentum and diplomatic negotiation needed to unite European interests, notably securing official French government backing for the A300B program in 1969. Ziegler served as managing director of French aerospace industry trade-off organization USIAS from 1971 to 1973, before retiring from Airbus in 1975, honored with many prestigious international distinctions, including Grand Officer of the Legion d'Honneur, Honorary CBE, CVO, and the 1973 Tony Genius Award. Henry Ziegler passed away on July 24, 1998, at the age of 91. Born on September 6, 1915 in Munich, Bavaria, Strauss graduated at the top of his class in Bavaria before studying at the Ludwig Maximilian University of Munich. After serving in the Wehrmacht during World War II, he entered West German politics, becoming a prominent figure in the Christian Social Union (CSU) and serving as its leader from 1961 until his death. Strauss rose quickly through the federal government under Chancellor Konrad Adenauer, becoming West Germany's youngest cabinet minister in 1953 and later defense minister in 1956, where he spearheaded the formation of the modern Bundeswehr and oversaw West Germany's integration into NATO. Despite stepping down in 1962, following the political controversy of the Spiegel affair, he returned as finance minister in the Grand Coalition government from 1966 to 1969. As minister-president of Bavaria from 1978 to 1988, Strauss was instrumental in transforming Bavaria from an agrarian economy into a high aerospace hub. His leadership on the Airbus Supervisory Board provided the necessary political weight and funding guarantees from West Germany. Internationally influential, Strauss maintained extensive diplomatic ties across both democratic and authoritarian regimes, famously securing a crucial multi-billion-mark credit line for East Germany in 1983, honored with numerous international decorations. Franz Josef Strauss passed away on October 3, 1988, at the age of 73, and Munich International Airport was later named in his honor. Born on May 13, 1912, in Krefeld, Germany, Kracht pursued aeronautical engineering at the Technical University of Aachen. He quickly proved his practical capabilities at the Flugwissenschaftliche Vereinigung Aachen by designing and building the high-performance FV-810 Rhineland glider, which gained him national renown in 1937 when he successfully piloted across the Alps. During World War II, Kracht worked at the German Research Institute for Sailplane Flight, where he was instrumental in developing and advanced high-altitude rocket-powered experimental aircraft, including the DFS-228 glider and the rocket-propelled DFS-346. In the post-war period, he relocated to France to work with Nord Aviation. His international perspective and bilingual expertise led to his appointment in the late 1950s as the lead coordinator for the Franco-German Transall C-160 military transport aircraft project, establishing and proving records in cross-border aerospace collaboration. Before officially joining the AIRBUS venture, Kracht added Deutsche AIRBUS GmbH. In 1968, he became the first production director for the Airbus A300 program, famously describing his role as the midwife of consortium unique production infrastructure. Working alongside Roger Bataille, Kracht designed the distributed work-share model across European facilities, optimizing manufacturing specialization, eliminating redundancies, and coordinating the transport of major sub-assemblies via Super Guppy aircraft to the final assembly line in Toulouse. Kracht was later promoted to senior vice president and remained in charge of production at Toulouse until his retirement in 1981, after which he continued to serve as a high-level advisor to the company. Recognized for his contribution with the Officer's Cross of the Order of Merit of the Federal Republic of Germany in 1978. Felix Kracht passed away on October 3, 2002, at the age of 90. Later, in 1969, the agreement was signed, and the A300 project was launched. But before this futuristic project, a lot of trouble happened. To begin, let's give out some context. We are at the end of the 1960s decade. In 1968, 3 aircraft were presented: Boeing with the Boeing 747, McDonnell Douglas with the DC-10, and Lockheed Martin with the Lockheed L-1011 3-star. In service, there were the Boeing 707, the DC-8, the South Aviation Caravelle, and the de Havilland Comet 4. Also, there was the problem of safety. In fact, the engines of the past were like the engines of today. This created the first strife between the engineers. Roger Bataille, Felix Kracht, Erich Ziegler, and Franz Josef Strauss faced repeated claims that a twin-engine passenger jet could not be operated safely over long distances. 3 engines were still the accepted minimum. Also, as I said before, there was a lot of competition between the producers of airplanes, but in the end, the development starts. To operate the A300, Bataille wanted a more powerful engine than was then available. Rolls-Royce was already developing a new engine, the RB211, aimed at the American market, and it pledged to build a version with more thrust, the RB207 for Airbus. As the month went on, however, it became clear that Rolls-Royce had overrestricted themselves and were concentrating all their efforts and found on the RB211. Development work on the RB207 had all but stopped. Airbus had no engine. What initially seemed like a major setback ultimately worked in the program's favor. Realizing that a significant portion of the A300's development expenses stemmed from its bespoke Rolls-Royce engines, Roger Bataille determined that a certain existing off-the-shelf engines would drastically lower costs. At the same time, seeing that the major European airlines were lowering their passenger growth projections and that the 300-seat model might prove too large, Bataille secretly led a small team to redesign the aircraft. They developed a scaled-down 250-seat variant with a 1,200 nautical mile range, designated as the A300B, and launched at the 1969 Le Bourget Air Show. This smaller airframe allowed the twin-engine A300 to utilize existing less powerful engines such as the Rolls-Royce RB211, Pratt & Whitney JT9D, or General Electric CF6, making the aircraft far more cost-effective and appealing to prospective airlines. Despite growing momentum, escalating costs cast serious doubts over the AIRBUS program. When the French government threatened to pull funding due to the burden of simultaneously financing Concorde, AIRBUS and the Mercure, Henry Ziegler, a war hero, former head of Air France and key AIRBUS leader, confronted French Transport Minister Jean Chamon directly. Ziegler warned that cancelling AIRBUS would leave 30,000 workers, mostly French, unemployed, effectively neutralizing the government threat. In Britain, however, political resistance mounted. Already concerned by Concorde's high costs, the British government grew hostile after learning that Rolls-Royce would not supply engines for the A300, having instead partnered exclusively with Lockheed for the 3-star. Following the announcement of the scaled-down A300B in December 1968, Minister of Technology Tony Benn informed the House of Commons that the redesigning created a new situation and explicitly stated that Britain would not commit financial support to any new proposals brought forward by the consortium. Following Britain's withdrawal from the AIRBUS program, a few months later, West Germany stepped in to fill the financial void, offering to cover up to 50% of the project's cost if France matched the contribution. For West Germany, AIRBUS presented a vital opportunity to rebuild its civil aviation sector after World War II. This effort was championed by West German Finance Minister Franz Josef Strauss, an aviation enthusiast and strong advocate for European industrial collaboration. According to AIRBUS General Secretary Hanko von Lachen, Strauss was instrumental in maintaining government support, driven by his courage and vision for European industry. Simultaneously, Sir Arnold Hall, managing director of Fokker Siddeley, made the strategic decision to remain in the program as subcontractor, despite the British government's exit. Fokker Siddeley invested £35 million in equipment to design and build the wings for the A300, and the West German government provided a loan for the additional £35 million needed, allowing British engineering participation to continue. Designing the manufacturing framework was a formidable challenge, but at Saud Aviation Base in Toulouse, Roger Betail established a work-share plan that will define the AIRBUS production model for decades. Prioritizing expertise over national identity, Betail assigned specific components to each partner nation. France was responsible for the cockpit control systems and lower central fuselage. Fokker Siddeley, in Britain, was tasked with the wings. West Germany produced the forward, rear and upper central fuselage sections, and the Netherlands built the moving wings parts such as flaps and spoilers, with Spain later joining in 1971 to build the horizontal tailplane. Felix Kracht was charged with managing the industrial assembly, operating on the core principle that each task should be executed once in a single, dedicated location. This collaborative arrangement was formalized in September 1967, when the government ministers from France, Britain and West Germany met in London to sign a Memorandum of Understanding, launching the first phase of the A300, a short to medium-range twin-engine aircraft. The initial agreement allocated a 37.5% development share each to France and Britain, with West Germany holding 25%, designating South Aviation as the lead company and Fokker Siddeley as the primary British partner. From the outset, Roger Betail insisted that the A300 incorporated advanced technology to gain a competitive edge over rival aircraft. To ensure global compatibility, he established English as the working language and adopted imperial units instead of metric, recognizing that most target airlines already operated US-built fleets. Betail personally consulted, as we said, major carriers, including Air France, Lufthansa, United, TWA and American Airlines, to align the design directly with customer needs, establishing a strong culture of customer focus that will drive Airbus' long-term success. Furthermore, Betail and Felix Kracht shared a strategic vision for the consortium future. They recognized that long-term variability required developing a complete family of aircraft, covering all market sectors, setting an ambitious commercial goal to capture at least a 30% share of the global aircraft market, officially greenlit by France and Germany at the 1969 Le Bourget Air Show. The A300B was designed to be smaller, lighter, and more economical than its three-engine American competitors. The aircraft's fuselage diameter was reduced from 6.4 meters to 5.6 meters, and its length from 53.92 meters to 48.3 meters, making it 25 tons lighter than the original A300 concept. To maximize operational economy and profitability, Roger Betail raised the cabin floor slightly, creating enough space in the lower hold to carry two standard LD3 freight containers side by side, allowing airlines to generate significant revenue from extra cargo. Simultaneously, Hawker Siddeley engineered an innovative wing that generated greater lift and superior overall performance. These designs' advancement enabled the A300 to climb faster and reach cruising altitude sooner than rival passenger aircraft, providing cabin crew with additional time for in-flight service. The engine selected for the first A300 was the American-built General Electric CF650A, produced with the assistance of French firm Snecma as part of mandatory deal. Delivering 49,000 libras of thrust, it offered top-tier market power alongside improved fuel economy. Additionally, the A300 pioneered the commercial aviation use of weight-saving composites, using glass fiber reinforced plastic for the random and the tail's fins, leading and trailing edges. The formal establishment of Airbus industry occurred on December 18, 1970, when it was legally created as a Groupement d'intérêt économique (GIE). France Aerospatiale and West Germany's Deutsche Airbus each held a 50% stake, headquartered initially in Paris before relocating to Toulouse in January 1974. The entity provided a unified management interface for designing, flight testing, sales, marketing, and customer support. Franz Josef Strauss was named president and chairman of the supervisory board, which served as the governing body for overall strategy and industrial work share allocations. With the test program well underway, Airbus took another revolutionary step by setting up an intentional team of test pilots. It was decided that the Airbus industry, rather than Aerospatiale, would be directly responsible for their flight testing. Bernard Ziegler, son of Harry Ziegler, was tasked with organizing the A300 flight tests as truly European organization. To achieve this, he recruited top figures including Aerospatiale veteran Pierre Canet and Max Fischler, later adding British and Spanish test pilots to the team. The first flight of the A300 took place in Toulouse on October 28, 1972, a month ahead of the schedule despite delays caused by bad weather. The flight lasted 1 hour and 23 minutes. Max Fischl served as a captain, while Bernard Ziegler, then head of flight testing, acted as his number 2. Ziegler explained that he broke the tradition of the boss making the first flight to emphasize a team effort and eliminate stars within the system, much to the surprise of the Airbus management at the time, including Betail and his father Henry. After that first flight, the last dilemma was how to conquer the American and the worldwide market. The solution: fly the A300 all around the world, in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, in Oceania, and last but not least, in America, especially in Chicago, where the CEO of Eastern Airlines met and flew the airplane and his engineers. After that flight, he ordered 5 aircraft for 6 months, and then, after the period, he ordered 26 of these aircraft. The program was complete, AIRBUS was active, and the A300 was a success, not only in the European market, but also in the American market. So the brand made out the decision to below their aircraft, but we will talk about that in the next episode of this series, which starts today. Here, every 2 weeks, we will discover every aircraft that AIRBUS made. So stay tuned for the next episode.